Have you ever just, stopped and thought about how much life is packed onto our planet? I mean, really thought about it. Today, we're diving deep into this incredible variety, this beautiful, chaotic, and absolutely essential thing we call biodiversity. Okay, let's do a little thought experiment. Imagine an alien lands on Earth. What do you think would be the most baffling thing to them? It wouldn't be our skyscrapers or our internet, no way. It would be the sheer, overwhelming amount of life. The stuff that's crawling, flying, swimming, and growing in every single corner of this world. That would absolutely blow their mind. And just to try and wrap our heads around the scale here, let's throw out some numbers. 20,000. What's that, you ask? Well, that is the number of different species of ants. Ants. Just ants alone. It's kind of nuts. Oh, but if you thought that was a lot, get ready for this one. 300,000. That's how many different kinds of beetles we know of. 300,000. That's more beetle species than there are people in a pretty big city. And we haven't even touched the oceans yet. We've managed to identify about 28,000 different species of fish. I mean, these numbers are just staggering, right? It sounds like science fiction, but this is our reality. This is planet Earth. So yeah, it's pretty clear there's an unbelievable amount of life here. But that just brings up more questions, doesn't it? Like, why are there so many different kinds of things? And honestly, does it really matter if we lose a few of them along the way? These are the exact questions that have fascinated scientists for centuries. But before we get into the deep stuff, we need to make sure we're all on the same page. Let's start with the big one. What even is biodiversity? You've probably heard the word thrown around, but it's actually a bit more complex than you might think. So the term biodiversity was made famous by a sociobiologist named Edward Wilson, and his whole point was that it's not just about counting up all the different animals and plants. It's way bigger than that. It's the total variety of life at every single level of organization. So let's break that down. Level 1 is genetic diversity. This is all the variation you see within a single species. For instance, in India, there are over 50,000 different strains of rice and about 1,000 varieties of mangoes. They're all still rice, they're all still mangoes, but that genetic variety is what allows a species to adapt and survive when things change. It's super important. Then we zoom out to level 2, species diversity. This is the one we're probably most familiar with. It's simply the variety of different species you find in a particular place. For example, the Western Ghats in India are teeming with all sorts of amphibian species. But the Eastern Ghats, not so much. That difference is a perfect example of species diversity. And finally, we zoom out one last time to the biggest level, ecological diversity. This is about the variety of entire ecosystems. Just think about India again. It's got deserts, rainforests, mangroves, coral reefs, the whole shebang. Now compare that to a country like, say, Norway. It's beautiful for sure, but the variety of ecosystems just isn't on the same scale. That's ecological diversity. Okay, so we've got these 3 levels, genetic, species, and ecological. But that still doesn't quite tell us how much life is actually out there. And the honest truth, we really don't know for sure. Trying to count every living thing on Earth is, well, it's a monumental task, maybe even an impossible one. Just look at this. On the left, that's what we've actually described and named so far. A little over 1.5 million species. But on the right, that's what scientists like Robert May estimate is actually out there. And his estimate of around 7 million is considered pretty conservative. That is a massive gap. It means there are literally millions of species living on this planet right now that are completely unknown to science. And when we look at the species we do know about, the breakdown is just wild. Over 70% of all known species are animals. Okay. Makes sense. But then, inside the animal kingdom, insects are the undisputed champions. They make up more than 70% of all animal species. Let me put it another way. Out of every 10 animals on Earth, 7 of them are insects. Just let that sink in for a second. So we've got this planet that is just teeming with life, all connected in these incredibly complex ways. But this brings us to a really, really important question. So what? I mean, really, does it matter if we lose a species here or there? Extinction has been happening forever, right? Let's make it concrete. Imagine some tiny tree frog that lives in one small forest, and that's it. If that frog goes extinct, does the world really change? It's a fair question. And a Stanford ecologist named Paul Ehrlich came up with a really clever analogy to help us think about it. He called it the Rivet-Popper hypothesis. Think of an ecosystem as an airplane, and that airplane is held together by thousands of little metal bolts, or rivets. Each species is one of those rivets. Now imagine every passenger on the plane starts popping out a rivet to take home as a souvenir. The plane won't crash immediately, but every single time a rivet is removed, the whole structure gets a little bit weaker, a little less safe. And here's the most critical part. It really, really matters which rivet you pop. Pulling a rivet from a seat cushion might not do much, but pulling a rivet from the wing, well, that's a whole different, much scarier story. Some species are like those rivets in the wing. They are absolutely critical. They're called key species, and if you lose them, the entire ecosystem could be in serious trouble. The terrifying thing is, this isn't just a thought experiment. We are living on that airplane right now, and we're popping rivets like there's no tomorrow. In fact, things have gotten so serious that scientists have a name for our current era: the sixth extinction. Now I know what you might be thinking. Wait, there have been other extinctions. And you're right. There have been 5 major mass extinctions in Earth's long history. But this one is different. It's happening at a speed that is just breathtakingly fast. We're losing species somewhere between 100 and 1,000 times faster than the normal background rate before humans came along. And this isn't happening to just a few obscure creatures, it's across the board. Look at these numbers. Almost a quarter of all mammals are threatened. Over 30% of gymnosperms, those are things like pine trees, and a staggering 32% of all amphibians are facing extinction. It seems our frog and salamander friends are having a particularly tough time. So what's the cause? Is it a giant asteroid? A supervolcano? Nope. The primary driver is us. It's human activity. And scientists have actually broken down the 4 main ways we're causing this, and they've given it a pretty ominous name: the Evil Quartet. The number one threat, the leader of this Evil Quartet, is habitat loss. And there is no more stark example than what's happening to the world's tropical rainforests. They used to cover about 14% of the Earth's land. Today, we're down to less than 6%. We're cutting them down for things like farms and cattle ranches, and by doing that, we're basically bulldozing the homes of millions of species. And that leads to what, for me, is the most heartbreaking part of all this. We are losing all of this biodiversity so fast that species are disappearing before we even get a chance to discover them, to learn from them. It really is like a massive library is on fire, and we're watching the books burn before we've even had a chance to read the titles. What cures, what wonders, what secrets are we losing in those flames? We might never know. And that, right there, is the greatest tragedy of all.